Fun fact, it's called Elephant mostly because the guitar goes... So I started jokingly calling it that, and then it actually fits the lyrics because it's the elephant in the room. Because we're very clever as well as silly. It's 2 minutes before I'm due to log on to do an interview for Louder Than War Radio. And I'm nervous, of course, quite nervous. Got all my gubbins set up and I've tested everything so many times, but even so, whew, okay. Am I allowed to speak? Oh, good. Hi. Hello, everyone. About 4 years ago, Miles Hunt from The Wonder Stuff sent me an email saying that his friend Rat from Ned's Atomic Dustbin was looking for someone to help him complete some songs, someone to collaborate with. And I was still not over the fact that Miles Hunt from The Wonder Stuff was sending me emails, even though I've known him for a while through gigging. So that was a very exciting day, full stop. And then to hear that someone from one of my teenage bands wanted to work with me was ridiculous. So I excitedly said yes and jumped up and down and did a little dance and stuff. Then played it very cool, as always. 4 very slow years later, we finally have an album to release. It's a duo. I produced the record. I co-wrote everything. He plays all the guitars. I play everything else. Bonkers. Yeah, it's coming out next Friday, which is horribly soon, but I'm excited about it. I've talked myself out of it many times because, and the resolution to that was realising that all I can ever do is turn up as myself and bring myself to the project. And in fact, that's what first drew Rat to my music online anyway. So he found my song Drown Me Out from my She Makes War album. He found that on YouTube randomly. And so if I hadn't been myself and made that thing, he wouldn't have found me in the first place. And then he sent me a lot of guitar parts that weren't songs, but they had different elements to them, stuff that could be a verse, stuff that could be a chorus, whatever. And I started just cutting them up and moving them around and singing over them and adding stuff. And he really did mean it when he said, I'm open to anything, because he didn't have the ideas to finish the things, to make them into songs. And I think that's very cool and humble of someone to realise that. Because what he could have done is just kept working away at them and maybe never got them anywhere and then felt really disappointed or something. But knowing that you need to collaborate to complete something I just think that's really cool. So he was very open to me doing anything. And so just in terms of how different it was, because that's what you actually asked me, sorry. It was very different, but it was interesting because I would never have written those songs if he hadn't given me those parts, you know what I mean? So it really is a collaboration in that sense. And every single song came from his source material. I have done top lines before, like my first ever release, like proper commercial release, was in 2007 or something. It was me singing over a dancey track. And it's a similar sort of thing to that, except then I added all of the production and, played the bass and did all the other stuff too, this time. But it's really interesting songwriting exercise. Just share something with a friend and get them to share something with you and just see what you come up with. Or even write over the same thing and see how different it is. It's just an interesting way of showing how different we will approach things as artists. I am fiercely independent. I actually stopped describing myself as a DIY artist quite a few years ago. Kim Bookbinder, who's an American artist, she wrote a really interesting piece about how the term could be very limiting. It can really put you in a box, and not necessarily to the outside world, because who gives a shit about that really, but perception in the music industry I could care less about. But I just mean in your own brain. That idea really percolated for me over the years. And so I started calling myself independent instead. And it was for my own brain, really. It's all just words, and it doesn't really matter what they mean as long as they mean a thing to you that's helpful and positive. So I don't balk at the idea of being called DIY, that's fine. I think it can be limiting. I think it can be a thing that stops you from accepting help or realising the things that you could potentially delegate. And the reason I was laughing is because I'm the absolute world's worst person at doing that. So I'm really proud of the things I make. I know that there are some things that should be done by someone else at some point. It's all driven by having no money to do these things. Acknowledging the privilege I have in my life. I was never given any money to do stuff. I don't come from money. I've only ever been able to fund the stuff I do by freelance work, which I was doing for a long time, by crowdfunding, by doing pre-orders. So my whole thing has been consistently funded by music fans. So all I care about then is treating them like VIPs. I don't care about the rest of the stuff. And on previous albums, I did pay for PR and I paid for radio plugging once. And it was a dreadful waste of money in my case. And I'm not doing that on this album at all. And it feels so good, honestly, because then when anything comes along, it feels like a win. It doesn't feel like, hang on, I paid this much money and the return is tiny and it's no good. So actually it just feels like genuinely people care if they say anything. I'm hesitant to say everyone should do this because it's definitely it's an individual's choice. I'm not saying that these things don't work for other people. I just know that they don't for me because I did it 5 times and it didn't work for me. And then on my last record, Exotic Monsters, I started using different techniques. I started using the storytelling techniques that I've been sort of working on over the years. So series of emails to my list, different ways of speaking to people online, different ways of using video to get across my story and being very emotionally vulnerable in that way and honest as well. However DIY someone is, there has to be an element of bringing your music to people. I get frustrated when I see these kind of threads of conversations of musicians complaining about, now I have to also be I'm putting inverted commas here because I hate the phrase, content creator. But I don't think that's bad. I think it's an opportunity to tell your story. We have an opportunity to tell our story time and time again in every post and every video and whatever. I don't see how that's bad, because if I had been, even just a little older than I already am, then I would have potentially been working with labels or whatever and not been able to have that communication and not be able to create that community that's a real bunch of people who I really care about them and they really care about me. And we talk regularly and have done for the last 12 years. I wouldn't have that stuff. And then at the whims of whoever was running this company, I just wouldn't be able to contact them anymore. So I think this is better, but it is terribly exhausting. And there's got to be a way of doing it where I can spend the bulk of my time on the things that only I can do. And someone else can put the CD in the envelope, I mean, I would just add that no one's expecting you to even make music, let alone make a video for it. No one's expecting you to do anything. You choose. You choose whether to make the music. If you care so much about it that you want people to hear it, find a way that people can hear it then. You don't have to do a weekly YouTube video. You don't have to make a podcast. You don't have to write blogs. I just like doing those things. And I don't like to be not busy. It's coming out on Friday the 24th of February. You get it direct from my shop, which is shop.penfriend.rocks. That's a real URL. You can get your own. And what was the other question? Oh, it's called 1 in 1,000 because I've never liked the idea of this. You've got to be 1 in a million, the very best, the most special, or you're nothing. Because actually, that's nonsense. And I think it's much nicer feeling to be one in 1,000, to stand together in a community of music supporters, music makers, doctors, teachers, all the people doing their different things. Everyone has a role. Everyone can have, I believe, a role in a community, a valued role. I hope that my valued role will continue to be songwriter, producer, maker of things. And I appreciate other people just the same way as they might appreciate me. We're just all normal people. And we all just bring different things. That's what 1 in 1,000 means. By the way, my house is not tidy. This is like the only bit that doesn't look like someone's ransacked a room.